Hop and Vetiver Accidental Anarchist, Chapter 7. Welcome back. Welcome back to our side of reality, Lord Rajani. Two figures knelt before Hop. A nose protruded between Hop's eyes, interfering with his vision. He bent his neck and saw two strong hands attached to two arms, which were attached to a wiry, compact body, wearing a black tank top and pants. What's going on here? His voice sounded different than it had in his head. Vetiver? Vetiver didn't answer. She was too busy staring around, glancing from Hop's new material form to the unfamiliar forest. The air was cold, and clouds of mist hung suspended a few feet above Vetiver's head. The loamy ground was littered with decaying leaves and overgrown with verdant moss. Trees towered up through the fog. They were gray-barked and straight, and so tall that even the lowest branches were invisible. Vetiver remembered an old Brothers Grimm fairy tale book from Uncle James's house. These woods looked like the illustration of the dark forest in the Little Red Riding Hood story. She felt even smaller than the girl in the book. You seem to have picked up a parasite in your travels, Lord. We should dispose of her and return to the assembly immediately. The strangers pushed back their hoods in unison. They were both brown and lithe, with bushy hair and large dark eyes. Pointy ears stuck out from their heads. The girl had gold earrings, along with beads and feathers woven into her brown hair. Her companion was also a brunette, but the longer hair on top of his head was green. Let us hurry. He stepped forward so fast Vetiver's eyes couldn't track him, and flicked the blade of his spear down at her neck. Vetiver threw her hands in front of her face, although she knew such a fragile barrier would do nothing but slow the inevitable. Stop! Vetiver's attacker froze. Vetiver peeked through her fingers to see a shiny sliver of honed metal 4 centimeters from her face. Yes, Lord Rajani? Would someone explain what is going on? And no killing Vetiver. Leave her alone. Don't you remember us, Lord? The female pursuer asked. The other sprite glared at her. Lord Rajani has been through a lot in the past 6 years, he huffed. He can't be expected to remember everything. Milord, I am Lieutenant Robert Weeks, and this is my sister, Lieutenant Isla Weeks. We are, as ever, your dedicated servants. As for your pet, it is unfortunate, but she cannot be allowed to continue. If she were to stray from your side, she would corrupt this ancient, stable side of reality. Vetiver stepped behind Hop and grabbed his sleeve. I won't stray, I promise. Awaiting orders, Lord. Lieutenant Robert Weeks stood at attention. Leave her alone. Noted, sir. Now I suggest we make our way to the assembly before they send someone out to fetch us. The Weeks siblings slipped ahead of Hop and Vetiver into the woods. Apparently they were no longer worried Hop would run away. After a moment's hesitation, Hop followed. Walking was difficult. He was unaccustomed to his feet, which seemed large relative to his body. The uneven ground and the fact that Vetiver was clinging to his arm didn't make things easier. Hey, he whispered, falling farther behind his lieutenants. What's going on? I don't know. I can't even remember how we got here. Well, we were hiding from these people, and you fell asleep. But they found us, and I tried to reanimate you, but instead I saw a blue light, and we were here. Oh, that explains things. I'm just dreaming. But that can't be, Hop argued with Vetiver's conclusion. I don't dream. Well, you're not dreaming. I'm dreaming, and you're just a projection of my unconscious mind. No, I'm telling you. Here, I'll check. Vetiver pulled her multi-tool from her bag. Hop noticed she was back in the clothes she'd been wearing when they had first met. They'd been so tattered when she reached the dojo that Soren had recycled them into cleaning rags. But now they looked fine. Vetiver pried open the scissor tool and snipped off the end of her braid, leaving a sharp, unnatural end. What are you doing? That looks horrible. Just watch. Vetiver tossed the braid behind her back. She took a few steps, then pulled it into view. This is my dream test, she told Hop. If I cut my hair and it goes back to normal after a bit, I'm dreaming. Oh. They walked a while in silence. The forest floor smoothed out as they traveled, and the trees were farther apart. But I don't You're not real. Quit trying to trick me. I feel real. You don't even look real. What do you mean? You've got huge ears like them, and your hair is short and orange on the bottom, and long and purple on top. The weirdest things are your eyes. They're black with glowing orange stripes in the middle of the pupils. You're one of the trippiest things I've dreamed of ever." "Don't say trippy," Hop admonished. "Are they like cat eyes? That would be cool." "No, they're like goat eyes, and I can say trippy all I want, because I'm dreaming and nobody can stop me. Hey, look at that." They entered a clearing filled with low, mossy mounds of sticks and earth. Hop thought they looked like tumors on the otherwise flat ground. "They look like beaver houses!" Vetiver exclaimed. Robert Weeks bristled. "They aren't beaver houses, they're our houses." "Oh, sorry." "This way," Robert told Hop. They took a left. Through the fog, Hop saw a mound that dwarfed the little piles of sticks all around them. Something about it made his heart race and his feet slow down. "Whoa," Vetiver breathed as they drew nearer. "It's huge." The mound was probably the size of a shopping mall. Trees had taken root on the gentle slope, and a flock of crows, the first wildlife Vetiver had seen so far, loitered on a patch of grass. "Caw!" she called out to them. The black birds spun around, and all stared at Vetiver with beady eyes like chips of obsidian. Then they swooped upwards, their sharp feathers zipping through the air. Coal black down scattered like ashes around them, and when it settled, a person stood there. He had midnight black skin and a cloak of iridescent starling feathers. "Eatsall," he said as he descended the mound, "you're finally back." He stopped a few feet away and sneezed. A tiny black feather shot out of his mouth and fluttered to the ground. "Excuse me." "You should not be transforming on this ancient ground," Lieutenant Roberts said. Both he and Isla frowned. "Nothing I do could be as potentially disruptive as that." The newcomer pointed a long, velvety black finger at Vetiver. "But I'm sure you have your reasons for it. Eatsall," he said, addressing Hop, "I'm interested to hear what's befallen you these past 6 years. But first we should tell everyone you've returned." He hesitated as he selected his next sentence. "Although emotions have cooled down, please be careful what you say. There was plenty of suspicion surrounding your disappearance." "Wait, will you please explain what's going on? I don't know where I am or who any of you people are, and these guys," Hop gestured to Robert and Isla, "have been trying to kill my friend." "Man, Eatsall." The newcomer dropped a hand on Hop's shoulder. They were exactly the same height. He had shoulder-length silver hair and gleaming white bars instead of pupils. "Have you forgotten us all? You never make anything easy, do you?" He waved his arm at the lieutenants. "These are the Weeks siblings, your most trusted soldiers. They are hasty and wild like you, but they've shown dedication by trying to bring you back. I am Corbin Rajani, Administrator of Acerbity. And who am I supposed to be?" "Eatsall Rajani, former Administrator of Fury." "Why do we have the same last name?" "You haven't gotten any sharper while you've been away," Corbin said, rolling his eyes. "We're brothers, Eatsall, twin brothers, in fact." "This is my subconsciousness making fun of me for wanting a twin," Vetiver muttered. "Who's your friend?" Corbin asked. He gestured for the group to follow him up the hill. "This is Vetiver. I've been traveling with her for the past few months. She thinks she's dreaming this." Corbin said. A square stone structure perched at the top of the mound. Corbin opened its water-stained door, and everyone filed into a single room, with no windows or furnishings. He pushed a grimy button from a grid on the wall. Each button was inscribed with a different number of dots. "You're standing in the most stable elevator on this side," Isla boasted. "Dot elevators are especially distortion-prone." "You're the first human to ride this thing in living memory," Corbin added, addressing Vetiver for the first time. "Cool. Where are we going?" Vetiver asked. "We'll head to the assembly hall and try to get you back up to speed on this side of reality. Hop, just act pitiful and confused, and hopefully no one will mention the evidence that you were an accomplice. It should be easy for you because pitiful and confused is your default state." "Accomplice?" "Yes, say it just like that." Hop scowled. "Are you the older twin?" Vetiver asked as the elevator whispered to a stop. "Mm-hmm," Corbin answered. The door clicked open and they stepped out. Weak gray light shone through vents in the ceiling, supplemented by dancing orbs of flame, set in arches carved into the square room. The floor was hewn stone, and wooden benches lined 3 walls. Framed, aged portraits of sprites hung above the benches and over a pair of heavy oak doors that led out. The weak siblings took seats on the benches at either side. "This is as far as we're permitted to go, Lord Rajani," Isla said. "Milord, please try not to say anything incriminating," Robert said. "I'll do my best not to," Hop answered. Corbin pushed the double doors open and they entered the most impressive room Vetiver had seen in her life. A plush red carpet covered the stone floor, and pews were set around the room in a half-circle, like in a courtroom. An ornate Baroque chandelier illuminated brilliant tapestries depicting historical events. The room wasn't very big around, but the ceiling was so high the chain suspending the chandelier disappeared into blackness. An immense mirror faced the pews, and in front of it a half-circle of open floor, where the carpet had been worn down by pacing feet. As Vetiver walked to the innermost pew with Hop and his brother, she felt a jolt of uneasiness. When they sat down, she pointed and whispered, "Hop, look!" The mirror did not reflect her image. "Weird," Hop whispered back. The double doors opened once more, and an assortment of sprites filed in. Vetiver counted 4 of them, all of different ages and, she assumed, races. They sat down, with the exception of the tallest member, a pale, green-eyed woman with sharply pointed ears and wavy black hair. Her red velvet dress rippled across the floor as she walked to the center of the room. "Administrator of Dread, Maria Atlan, present." Corbin stood up. "Administrator of Acerbity, Corbin Rajani, present." Also, former Administrator of Fury, Itzal Rajani, present. A beat of silence passed before another person took roll. "Administrator of Tranquility, Cat Sangria, present." Administrator Sangria was compact, with broad shoulders and short legs. A curly blonde braid hung between her shoulders, and several bronze rings glinted from her fingers. An empty knife sheath swung from her belt. "She's incredible," Hop thought. She looked at him as she sat down, and her blue-gray eyes met his across the room. "Oh, man." Corbin slammed an elbow into Hop's ribs. "Stop ogling Cat," he hissed. "Hop, pay attention," Vetiver whispered from his other side. The next administrator was so small he had to shout to be heard in the tall room. "Administrator of Routine, John Fawn, present." He wore a black and white school uniform and had straight brown hair. Alarming purple bags framed his slanted eyes. The last administrator struggled to his feet. His knees, back, and neck crunched. "Administrator of Logic, Glacio Lloyd, present." He collapsed it back into his chair with a wheeze. The only things Vetiver noticed about Administrator Lloyd were his advanced age and the impressive shocks of white hair erupting from his long ears. Hop was too busy sneaking glances at Cat Sangria to register anything else. "Former Administrator of Apathy Tanith Gomez is not present," the woman in red finished. "We are assembled here today to question Itzal Rajani about his whereabouts, actions, and motives on the night of October 27th, 6 years ago, and how they are related to the Psionic Revolution and the near collapse of society on the other side of reality. Former Administrator Itzal Rajani, please rise and give account of yourself." Corbin nudged Hop, and he lurched to his feet. "I don't remember anything, really. Sorry to get your hopes up. I do remember waking up the morning after the revolution in someone else's body, a banker's, I think, but I don't remember the name at the moment, and I traveled west. I apparently didn't recognize my lieutenants and passed from host to host to avoid them. I've been traveling with this kid, Vetiver, for a few months now." "Huh! Going west," the elderly administrator, Lloyd, chuckled. "Trying to get home, and yet it took you this long to figure it out. I tried to teach you science, but you're so dense, Itzal." "Sorry," Hop said, although he wasn't sure what he was apologizing for. "So you cannot shed any light on A, the catalyst for the Psionic Revolution, B, your disappearance and Administrator Gomez's secession from the Assembly, or C, Bavarian hair catastrophe on the other side of reality? John Fawn asked. I'm afraid not. I really don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. I'm afraid sorry will not be sufficient, Administrator Fawn snapped. Firstly, both sides are in turmoil due at least in part to your actions, and secondly, that human is a menace to the stability of this ancient place. I call for you to atone for your actions with service, and for you to either return the human to the proper side or execute her. What? Come on! Vetiver shouted, then realized she had probably spoken out of turn. Excuse me, I'll be fine. I already promised not to mess anything up. I'm not going to execute her, Hop said. How do I return her? Fawn said, normally, you would just need to kill her in an unstable zone, and she would wake up. But you brought her material body with you to this side, so you'll need to use a return route, a portal. Unfortunately, all portals have been under Administrator Gomez's control for months now, as Administrator Lloyd can attest. Also, nobody has been executed in the Pool of Dread in my lifetime. It would be a notable occurrence. It might well raise morale. Lloyd rubbed his frail arm and winced. I don't understand, Hop said. He felt panicky. I have to kill Vetiver? Who's this Gomez person? What do all your titles mean? And where's the return route for Vetiver? I do not have time for this! John Fawn waved his tiny hands in the air. Former Administrator Itzal Rajani, we will adjourn this meeting for the day, so you have time to catch up on things, the tall woman said. Hop had already forgotten her name. I'll send you some literature, young man, the elderly administrator wheezed. You can stay the night at my house, Corbin said. Everyone stood up and filed out of the room. They waited in the second room while one administrator at a time took the small elevator. How did you do? Robert and Isla chorused. Not very well, I don't think. Hop scratched the back of his neck. The Administrator of Tranquility was waiting beside the elevator, within earshot. I think you did all right, she said. You apologized, and everyone seemed pretty relaxed, besides Fawn, and that's to be expected. Ah ha ha ha, thank you, Hop answered. He couldn't remember her name. You're welcome. The elevator opened and she stepped in. Goodbye. Who is that? Hop demanded Corbin. Administrator of Tranquility, Cat Sangria. Before you disappeared, you two were dating, kind of. Hop could feel his face heating up as he flushed. Are you messing with me? No, you spent a lot of time in her metalworking shop when you weren't terrorizing people from the other side. I think you guys ate out a couple times at the Berserker pub by your house. I'm drinking age? This side doesn't have a drinking age, but yes, we're 24 years old. The elevator opened and all 5 of them piled in once more. She was always shy and insisted you were normal friends, and you were aloof and never contradicted her. Guessing from your behavior now, that was totally an act on your part. Corbin pressed a button with 18 dots on it. Hop, Vetiver reminded him. Keep your mind in the game. You need to focus on protecting me, not romancing a girl elf. She's a sprite, not an elf, Robert growled. What's the difference? The elevator opened before Robert had time to answer her. They stepped out into a hallway. It looked like the lobby to the assembly hall, except doors of different shapes and sizes were set into the wall. This is mine, Corbin said, indicating one carved out of oak. He grasped the handle, but before he had time to turn it, clomping feet sounded down the hallway. Wait! Vetiver recognized Glacio Lloyd's dusty voice. The old sprite rushed around the corner, tripped on his long brown robe, and fell on his liver-spotted face. Are you okay? Vetiver hurried to his side and stood there, not sure if she should help him up. Was his neck broken? Stay away, child! Get back to Itzal! The elderly man pried himself off the floor, and Vetiver ran back to Hop's side. Don't worry, I'm tougher than I appear. He gathered up a stack of books that had fallen with him and walked slowly to Hop. Here are some of the basics, he said. Hop took the tomes. Dream Theory for the Intellectual Invalid, The History of the Psionic Revolution, and several newspapers. Thanks, Hop said. Read well. There will be a test. Lloyd gave a guffaw that morphed into a spring of gasping coughs as he walked away. Now that you've got your homework, let's head home, Corbin said. He held the door open and Hop and Vetiver stepped through. The Weeks siblings didn't follow. Aren't you coming with? Hop asked them. Robert bowed so low his forelock brushed the ground. Apologies, my lord. Because you are no longer officially an administrator, we were assigned to help with the assembly maintenance. At first we resisted, knowing that you would someday return, but they threatened to execute our cousins. Please excuse us from accompanying you while we perform our official duties. Yes, do that definitely, Hop answered. I should be safe at Corbin's house. True. Farewell for now, Lord Rajani. Farewell, Isla echoed. Bye. Hop gave his lieutenants an awkward half-wave. Then he, Vetiver, and Corbin walked up a short flight of stone steps. Vetiver opened the door at the top and was blown backward by a gust of salty air. What is this? She asked as she stepped outside. We should be in an old-timey forest right now. Instead, they stood on a rocky, frigid beach. Gray waves spread out over muddy brown sand, and lacy white lichen clung to the boulders underfoot. The wind snapped Vetiver's braid straight out behind her, and sand blew into her eyes. "We'd better get to the house," Corbin called over the gale. "I think it's going to storm."